Every day, you essentially pay your dues by doing the harder thing when it's the right thing to do.
This might surprise some people, but we probably spend, I would say 60% of our workout is drills. So we only get about 40 minutes of time on each event, which club programs typically get a little bit more than that. But the majority of our time spent on beam is drills, because it is the foundation of all your skills that you're doing. And without being able to master those drills, it's going to be really hard to execute those harder skills, A, consistently, but B, with great execution. So if an athlete can't do a drill for a back handspring properly, they're going to have probably a hard time doing a back handspring properly.
Right.
And so as much as drills can get boring and repetitive, if you can become a drill master, then those skills will just kind of start coming a lot more fluidly. So the other thing too is you have to be strong enough to do the drill. Sometimes, an athlete may have a weakness, whether it's their ankle strength or shoulder flexibility or core strength, whatever it is. So if an athlete can't do the drill that you're prescribing correctly, there's really no point in them doing it.
Sure.
And you need to break that drill down even further and simplify it even more so that they can be successful at it. Those are kind of some of my just opinions on drills. But lots of drills up onto panel mat, series up, anything that's going to challenge them if they're ready for it. And we do a lot of ankle stability work. I think that's probably one of our base foundations. Is every single day we do ankle stability work. Strong ankles allows you to be a good beamer. If you have weak ankles, how are you going to land a back handspring layout with good strength and stability? It's going to be really, really hard. So definitely the ankle stability stuff we do a lot. Drills we do a lot of single leg work, because you push off one leg a lot on beam. You also land on one leg a lot, and then really breaking down the skills. So a flick leg, you should be able to do a perfect back handspring to a tight shape and show control before moving on to back handspring layout. Because again, everything's a chain reaction. If you can't do a great back handspring, you're probably going to see some issues in the layout. And a lot of the time it's easy to just pinpoint and say, well, your knees are bent in your layout. Well, there's probably a reason why the knees are bent in the layout. The kid's not choosing to bend their knees, There's something that's happening before out of the back handspring, or even in midway through the back handspring, that's creating that issue to happen in the layout. So just kind of looking at all components, not just the end result of what's happening.
Lunge hop up to the laser beam. You can go from 2 feet, you can go from 1 foot also. This is an example of our single leg work that we do, starting with the jump from one leg up to a stable surface. And then as the athlete masters that, adding in an unstable surface. You can use a Eric's pad or a half moon or anything that's going to challenge the athlete to work on stabilizing their ankle a little bit more. This is the band ankle stability work. So we typically will do 10 to the side, 10 to the front, and 10 to the back on each ankle, keeping the tension on the band the whole time. This is an example of some of our single leg work and ankle stability work that we do, from a lunge to extension and back down. Again, arms staying nice and tight by the ears, and that hip is rotated down towards the beam. This is one of my favorite exercises in complex, développé to rond de jambe, and then doing the single leg work in the front with the lunge hop to extension. Really watching the athlete keep their arms tight by their ears and their hip rotated down. This is an example of our combination jumps we do in complex, putting a variety of different jumps and leaps together, challenging the athlete to keep the flow throughout the entire sequence. This is our complex that we do every day. High toe releve walks, forward, backwards, and side. This is some of our single work we do in the complex: passe, passe, développé, ronde, jambe, snap to releve, hold. We call these Missy brushes from our knee, working on full ankle extension, using your arms to elevate and pushing through the bottom leg. This is the side pivot, a snap, turn, and then if you're ready to challenge your athlete, you can have them snap the opposite direction also.
Like I said, about 60% is drill work, complex work, and we don't do a ton of volume. I really try to emphasize more of in a row. So 2 in a row or 3 in a row. It makes them, really work a little bit more consistently. And also, if you can hit 3 in a row, we probably don't need to do 6.
Sure.
And if there's an issue with the skill, so if I see an athlete struggling, maybe the assignment's 3 in a row series or something, and an athlete's really struggling with it, probably after the second or third attempt, I would have them stop and I would have them do a drill and then maybe go to the laser beam and do some and then give them one more chance. And if they still can't get it together, it's probably not going to happen that day. Sure. And there's no point if maybe the athlete's tired that day, their head's not in the right spot. Clearly, if a mistake is happening over and over again, that we're just going to see the same mistake over and over unless we change something.
Yeah.
And so that's where I tend to step in. And sometimes they don't like it. They're like, no, I can do it. I can do it. Like, it's actually not your choice anymore. So we're going to go do a drill. And this is the drill. I know you don't want to do it, but that's what we're going to do today.
Yeah. With a big smile.
Yeah, it was a big smile and gracious heart. And here we go. I was really, again, grateful to have some awesome club coaches that, didn't probably really know what was going on. I'm pretty sure I was the only kid in the whole club that was doing this, and just took me back to the basics, just like you said, and went back to some drill stuff. I think part of this stemmed from, I had a different coach when I was much earlier, and I think we did some skills probably wasn't ready to do, at a young age. And then you start, as you get a little bit older, kind of analyzing a bit, like, oh, can I really do that? And so going back to the basics and drills, absolutely. And then finding ways to be successful every day. So if you have an athlete that, struggles with this, let's find some ways that they can be successful at practice. Maybe it is a forward skill instead of a backward skill. Maybe you do that for a month and then you revisit the backward skill. Also, what helped me sometimes was numbers. If I had a number, so it was, if you hit 5 in a row today, you can just be done and move on. And then that worked really well for me. I know that sometimes that's hard because, again, you're individualizing workouts for certain athletes. But, again, people with mental blocks aren't choosing to have a mental block. And so there's things we got to do to help, work with them, work around it, and still try to make it enjoyable for them to come in the gym while they work through this. I don't think quitting is the answer, like I did at the time. But I think there are ways to work around it. And then, yeah, you're right. The biggest thing is you got to know why you're there, and you got to know what you're working towards, so that your dreams are something that you feel so strongly about, and it's not like a burden, like you're not there for somebody else. You're not going to be able to work through mental blocks if you were at practice for somebody else. And I know, lots of college teams do this, where you'll have, inner squads, and you'll have 6 people up, and you get a sense of what it's like to do an inner squad and compete with your team. But the interesting thing is, like, a lot of the time that doubt and those questions, those get magnified on beam more than like anywhere else, right? I mean, you can have a little doubt and like still go for your vault and you're fine. No one stands at the back of the vault runway is like, man, I hope I make this vault. Nobody does that. But like on beam, people do that. They're like, I hope I make this beam routine. There's a lot more time up there to think. So some of that doubt and that fear, it comes from like the response of other people. So what I mean when I say that is like being a little bit afraid of, like we just said, the response of, I don't want my teammates to think I'm bad on beam. I don't want to let them down. I don't want the response of my coaches to be angry or upset with me. And so as coaches, our job is to master that response. And that comes from our culture, right? That comes from the culture we create, where we continue to emphasize, we care about you as a person. Oh, and you're an athlete. That's right. But you're a person first. And then it becomes a safe place that, hey, if I screw up, Carly's still going to care about me. She's still going to love me. She's still going to think I'm awesome. Not, we have a culture where if I fall, I'm going to be in so much trouble. Because then that response, that becomes your focus, is the response of everybody else. And how are you going to go up on a 4-inch wide beam, do your beam routine, worried about what everybody else is thinking about? You cannot do it.